Okay, so I promised everybody that whenever I got all my computer parts, I would do a video and show you what all I decided to build. As you can see, the case is the Lian Lancool Mesh 2, and it is a nice performance airflow case. Very little RGB on it. Then the other parts that we started with were very basic keyboard and mouse. I don't play a lot of fast action first person shooters or anything, so I'm not too worried about lag because of a wireless keyboard or mouse. And as far as sound, went with just basic stereo speakers. As long as they make noise, they work good. My ears are pretty bad, so I don't need a fancy sound card. Most of the time I wear a headset anyway, so those just make noise when I'm not wearing a headset. We started off with in the original video, we had the power supply, which is the EVGA 750 watt gold modular power supply, so that's a nice way to power a good system. We had the video card that we showed before. Again, the power supply and video I got off of the Newegg Shuffle, so the EVGA for the Win 3 Ultra RTX 3070 works pretty good. For motherboard, I went with an X570, the Aorus Elite Wi-Fi, because it has Bluetooth wireless capabilities. It lets me put the computer anywhere I want, lets me use wireless Bluetooth headsets, stuff like that, controllers, whatnot with it. So that gives me full capabilities of the system, the ability to do PCI 4 on things if I want to. As far as boot drive, went with a PCI 3 boot drive. This one writes at about 3,000 to 3,500. So it's not full PCI 4, but I didn't want to pay an extra $100 to get the faster speed. This one has a good 600 terabyte total write on it, which is important. That's why I didn't go with a $80 or $100 1 terabyte drive. I went with this one that was 130, simply because the endurance that's available on this drive makes it worth the money. And then for additional storage, I went with just a 7,200 RPM 2 terabyte Seagate Barracuda. That'll give me enough room for right now to start editing videos, things like that. As far as memory on the system, I went with T-Force Vulcan Z. It's 3,600 megahertz, 2 16 gig sticks. So I have enough to do video editing, and later if I need to, I can add 2 more sticks and increase the total up to 64, which I will probably do one day. The processor, I went high end. I went with the Ryzen 9 5900X, and that way I have all the power I can use for whatever I want to do. And then the one thing that most people will think will be funny, for the cooler, I went with a $25 Vetroo V5. This cooler actually works with the system. Most of the time my CPU is running down around 38 to 40 degrees, and that's in a 25-degree room. And what actually made me decide on this cooler is I was watching Jay's 2 Cents, and he tested this against a 240 AIO, and this one actually performed better than the AIO. It actually ran up to 6 to 8 degrees cooler. I've run stress tests on this cooler, and I've never had it go above 74 degrees running prolonged stress tests on it. So even with 12 cores and the graphics card that's on it, I only have the 2 stock fans, well actually 3 stock fans that came in the case, so 2 in the front, 1 exhaust fan. no additional fans on it. My system most of the time is running between 40 and 60 degrees, regardless of what the component is. Most of the time between 40 and 50. So it's worked really well. But that's basically it. And then I don't have a setup where I could actually stream because my old computer wouldn't run 2 cameras at one time, so I could do a stream build. But the computer is already built. And so I have it. Right now it's actually hooked to a 50-inch 4K TV for a monitor because I haven't bought a monitor for it yet. But that is basically where we stand on the computer. It's up, it's running. I play Subnautica Below Zero, Breath Edge, and Raft on it so far are the ones that I've played on it. And my only problem that I've run into is if I run it without frame limiters on it, it will run fast enough, like on Raft, it will literally start stuttering and stumbling because the frame rate is overrunning the capability of the game. I have to set the frames down to like 144 frames a second, or 140 FPS, yeah, 144 frames a second, and then I get really smooth on it because the game frame limiter tops out at 240, and this system was sometimes busting 300 frames a second on that game in 1080p. If I put it up on 4K, all of the games that I just mentioned, it's running typically 90 to 100 up to 150 frames a second at 4K on those games. You know, they aren't real demanding games, but considering for 4K, anything that you get that goes above 60 frames a second is doing pretty good. But that's basically it. So as you can see, my system is up and running. Not a lot of RGB on it. Don't really care about RGB. It is a performance case that does not have RGB capability built into it. Didn't see any reason to pay $10 more to get the RGB one. I'm not real fond of it. But that's my new computer. Again, it's a Ryzen 9 5900. It is 32 gigabytes of RAM, a 1 terabyte SSD, 2 terabytes additional storage combined with that. The 3070, RTX 3070, it's for the Win 3 Ultra. The 750 gold modular power supply. And so actually, if you look in the system, you will see there is not much cable mess because you don't have to put any extra cables on it you don't need. And on this case, all of the cables wrap behind the motherboard and have covers on them, so even if I showed you from the other side, you would see almost no cables, which makes it really nice. So that's my new computer, and now I've got to get set up so I can actually start streaming and playing games on it and doing some games and things like that on Twitch and YouTube. So I hope you liked the video, and we'll catch up with you whenever I start playing some games.